everyone, Assalamu alaikum. This is Dr. Tazeen, your mentor and course director for Study MRCPI, and we are here with another session of YouTube series which is designed for all of you. And this session is about multiple pregnancy and NTD administration. If you have not subscribed the YouTube channel of Study Medic, subscribe now and just click on the bell icon so that you can stay updated with the upcoming YouTube series sessions. So before starting the session, the message for all of you is that keep your passion and dedication alive. That is the only basic ingredient of success. And for last few days, put all excuses aside and just remember that you are capable. Believe yourself, have faith in your journey, and you are going to pass this exam. First, we are going to discuss the important points of multiple pregnancy, and then we are going to discuss about NTD administration. About the management of multiple pregnancy, the first most important thing is that when we have to assign chorionicity, this is assigned best before 14 weeks on ultrasonography, and chorionicity documentation is very important. Retain image evidence, seek second opinion if there is uncertainty about the about chorionicity. If uncertain chorionicity is there, then the pregnancy, it should be assumed as monochorionic pregnancy. Start surveillance including twin transfusion syndrome screening, and the patient's care should be hospital based care which is coordinated by experienced obstetrician. So basically, the incidence of multiple pregnancy has increased due to assisted reproductive technology, and twin births are approximately 1.8% of all births. And the overall risk is associated with multiple pregnancy is higher perinatal and maternal morbidity compared to singleton pregnancy. The risk of cerebral palsy is also raised, and that is 4 times more likely than singleton pregnancy. Intrauterine growth retardation is also significant in multiple pregnancy. At least one twin is affected in 14 to 25% of the cases. Maternal risks are postpartum hemorrhage, hypertensive disorders including proteinuric hypertension, gestational diabetes, and the optimal management for these cases is hospital based care, frequent maternal and fetal surveillance, and individualized delivery planning should be there. The fetal risks which can be associated with multiple pregnancy, these can be increased perinatal mortality, increased preterm birth, higher rate of congenital anomalies, fetal growth restriction, and twin transfusion syndrome can also be associated with multiple pregnancy. The diagnosis of multiple pregnancy is very important to understand the perinatal outcome, which is largely determined by chorionicity. And the chorionicity is and amnionicity, it should be determined as early as possible, and the best time to determine chorionicity is before 14 weeks of gestation, which is also your exam question as well. Ultrasound markers which will determine that what is actually the diagnosis of multiple pregnancy, it will depend upon the number of placental masses. Lambda sign suggests dichorionic pregnancy, and T sign suggests monochorionic pregnancy, and also the thickness of intertwin membrane is also very important. So this is again your exam question. Number of placental masses is coming up on number 1 point. Then lambda sign suggesting dichorionic pregnancy is exam tested area. T sign suggesting monochorionic pregnancy is exam tested area, and thickness of intertwin membrane. If there is uncertainty about the chorionicity of twin pregnancy, then we should seek second opinion, and late gestation difficulty can be there with this. Late gestation difficulty can also be there with this twin pregnancy, which we should take care. If still unclear, label as undetermined chorionicity and manage as monochorionic until proven otherwise. If somehow after the second opinion, if somehow chorionicity we are unable to identify, then what actually should be done, that this should be taken as monochorionic pregnancy and monitoring of the patient should be carried out like that. Documentation should be the photographic incidents, evidence of ultrasound records supporting the chorionicity assignment, which is very, very important for multiple pregnancy. Preterm delivery in multiple pregnancy is basically the median gestational age at delivery is 37.1 weeks. Delivery before 32 weeks is happening in 20% of monochorionic pregnancies and 7% of dichorionic pregnancies. Delivery at 24 to 28 weeks is happening 5% of monochorionic pregnancies and 1.5% of dichorionic pregnancies. Short cervix is giving us the predictive value about the preterm delivery. If the cervical length is less than 20 mm at 15 to 24 weeks, then 50% will deliver before 32 weeks of gestation. If the cervical length is less than 25 mm at 24 weeks, then there is increased risk of preterm birth before 32, 35, and 37 weeks. Routine cervical screening, length screening is not recommended. Okay, not effective in prevention or intervention is not proven, so that's why it is not generally recommended. Interventions not effective to prevent preterm birth, that is bed rest, prophylactic cerclage, ultrasound indicated cerclage, vaginal progesterones, intramuscular progesterones, prophylactic tocolysis. This is basically these interventions, they are not effective to prevent the preterm birth. Antenatal corticosteroids can reduce the risk of respiratory distress syndrome, necrotizing enterocolitis, and interventricular hemorrhage. And steroids there should be timed administration of steroids if preterm birth is anticipated. Not routine use of steroids should be there, and benefit less robust than the singleton pregnancy for the steroids in cases of multiple pregnancy. What are the indications for referral to the tertiary fetal medicine unit in case of multiple pregnancy? If it is suspected monoamnionicity, if it is suspected twin to twin transfusion syndrome, if there is suspicion of fetal structural abnormality, if there is suspected intertwin growth discordance, and if there are higher order multiple pregnancies, means more than two babies or more than two fetuses are there, that is also an indication of referral to tertiary fetal medicine unit. And single fetal demise in monochorionic pregnancy is also an indication that they should be referred. Ultrasound surveillance in twin pregnancy is again a very important exam tested area. In cases of uncomplicated monochorionic pregnancy, the frequency of visits should be every 2 to 3 weeks from 16 weeks until delivery. And on the ultrasound visit, what we are going to do is actually that fetal weight estimation at each visit is carried out, and screening for twin to twin transfusion syndrome at each visit. Uncomplicated dichorionic pregnancies every 4 weeks from 24 to 36 weeks, and ultrasound with growth assessment, and weekly from 36 weeks onwards, and we continue the surveillance till delivery in cases of uncomplicated dichorionic pregnancy. For the twin transfusion syndrome, before 26 weeks for twin transfusion syndrome, laser ablation is the treatment of choice, and after 26 weeks, amnio reduction is the treatment of choice. And these two are your exam questions which are frequently asked in the exam. Now there is Cointreau's staging of twin transfusion syndrome and how we have to manage. It is basically staged from stage 1 to stage 5 depending upon the worsening of the situation. Stage 1 is oligohydramnios in the donor sac, deepest vertical pool less than 2 cm, and polyhydramnios in the recipient sac, deepest vertical pool more than 8 cm. And the management is conservative management. Stage 2 is that after amniotic fluid abnormalities, donor bladder won't be visible, and you have to consider laser therapy depending upon the gestation and progression. Stage 3 is critically abnormal Doppler in the donor or recipient, and laser photocoagulation is carried out if the gestational age is less than 26 weeks. Stage 4 is hydrops fetalis, usually in the recipient twin. Urgent specialist management is needed, usually laser if viable pregnancy. And stage 5 is one or both fetus demised and it is not amenable to therapy. So from stage 1 to stage 5, you should be able to understand that what are the features, ultrasound features, and what management you are going to take for these various stages. So for multiple pregnancy, the quick fast facts that delivery time for dichorionic pregnancy is 37 weeks. Delivery time for monochorionic diamniotic pregnancy is 36 weeks. Delivery time monochorionic monoamniotic pregnancy is 32 to 36 plus 6 weeks. And delivery time for trichorionic triamniotic pregnancy is 35 weeks. Again, exam tested area. This is your exam tested question, that the timing of delivery is very, very important in multiple pregnancy. You should be knowing the type of multiple pregnancy and you should be able to understand that what is the suitable time to deliver this patient. Then there is another important exam tested area, which is the protocol for vaginal birth in case of multiple pregnancy. A suggested protocol for vaginal birth of twins is that first of all, termination of epidural, IV infusion should be going on, syntocinon should be ready for the second stage. Deliver twin as first, if singleton, first twin would be delivered and time should be noted. Then for the second twin, the next step would be checking the lie and fetal heart rate, and CTG of the second twin should be continued and time should be noted for the second twin as well. If it is transverse lie, you can perform external cephalic version without any delay. If external cephalic version is successful, you can perform artificial rupture of membranes, and if there is any fetal distress or delay, you can use size 4 cup ventouse delivery. If there is no fetal distress, you can wait for normal vaginal delivery. If, however, your external cephalic version is unsuccessful, then you can perform internal pudalic version and breech extraction for the second twin. So the delivery of the second twin, what would be the suggested protocol that you should be knowing? And this is again a very important exam tested area as far as your exam is concerned. So now moving forward to the other most important topic, which is about NTD administration. NTD administration again is very important exam tested area which is going to be asked in the exam, and you should be able to answer all the questions which are frequently asked in the exam. About the NTD immunoglobulin administration, first of all, the RH status of the woman should be known and clearly document in the maternity records and include NTD plan in the care pathway. So at the booking visit, or if the patient is coming in the preconceptional period, RH status of the woman you should be knowing. In the booking investigations, blood group is done and that is giving you idea about the RH status of the woman. RH negative card should be considered, issuing handheld RH negative card at the booking, and SOPs should be followed that each hospital must have updated standard operative procedures covering indications, dose, lab checks, consent, verification, and documentation about NTD immunoglobulins. Education and documentation is very, very important. Regular multi-professional updates should be available. Documentation must include patient's identity, site of administration, batch number, dose, strength, and route. Informed consent should be sought, obtain verbal or written consent, provide risk and benefit information, and document consent or refusal. Verification should be carried out before administration of NTD immunoglobulins. Two staff members must confirm patient identity matches with the documentation. Recording of administration should be carried out, record in the antenatal notes and hospital blood bank system. Route of administration is preferably intramuscular in the deltoid. Gluteal muscle is acceptable if required. And post-injection monitoring is also very important, that you have to observe women for 20 minutes for anaphylaxis, and audit should be carried out on regular basis of practice against guidelines in each maternity unit. So the indications of NTD are basically the sensitizing events at any gestational age. So what are those sensitizing events? That is termination of pregnancy, ectopic pregnancy, evacuation of retained products of conception, amniocentesis, chorionic villus sampling, abdominal trauma, antepartum hemorrhage, external cephalic version, intrauterine fetal demise, or if it is stillbirth. All these are is very very important, and they are your exam questions. That sense, what are the sensitizing events when you have to administer NTD despite any gestation? So these sensitizing events you should be knowing and you should be able to recall in your exam. Miscarriage less than 12 weeks, not required unless surgical or medical evacuation or heavy bleeding. Miscarriage after 12 weeks, NTD is required. After birth, give if neonate is Rh positive. Then dose recommendations are also very important. Less than 20 weeks sensitizing event if it has happened 625 international units. More than 20 weeks if sensitizing event has happened more than 1000 international units. And feto-maternal hemorrhage test. Routine antenatal prophylaxis is basically 1500 international units at 28 weeks, and postnatal prophylaxis is more than 1250 international units within the 72 hours of delivery. So you have to take care that what actually is the gestational age, whether it is less than 20 weeks or more than 20 weeks. And also you have to remember that whether it is antenatal prophylaxis or postnatal prophylaxis. And after 20 weeks of gestation, feto-maternal hemorrhage test is also carried out, which is also a very important point. Routine antenatal NTD is given basically to all non-sensitized Rh negative pregnant women. It is given as a single dose at 28 weeks. If sensitizing event also occurred, still give routine dose. And if it is missed, then it should be given as early as possible. There are certain indications that when to do feto-maternal hemorrhage testing and why to do feto-maternal hemorrhage testing. The purpose of feto-maternal hemorrhage testing is basically to detect the feto-maternal hemorrhage volume, that what actually is the volume, so that you can give exact amount of NTD. It is required after 20 weeks events and postpartum. If any sensitizing event is happening after 20 weeks of gestation, then feto-maternal hemorrhage testing should be carried out, and the Klehor test is carried out, or flow cytometry can also be carried out. And additional dose of NTD can be given if there is large feto-maternal hemorrhage which is detected. The administration points regarding NTD which are very very important, that is basically the first thing is timing. It should be given within 72 hours. Benefit is up to 10 days. So now the exam question that is coming up in the exam, that when it is most suitable to give NTD, definitely within 72 hours, so as early as possible. So up till how many days it can be given? It can benefit up to 10 days. The route of administration is intramuscular, preferably deltoid, but gluteus can also be considered. Consent is needed, it is required before administration. Proper documentation is very, very important regarding the batch number, dose, and strength of the NTD, which is again very, very important. So less than 20 weeks, a quick summary that 625 international unit of NTD is sufficient. More than 20 weeks, least 1000 international units NTD should be given, and blood should be taken for the Klehor test or other similar test, which is flow cytometry, to estimate the size of feto-maternal hemorrhage. If bleeding continues intermittently after 12 weeks gestation, NTD should be repeated at 6 weekly interval. If it is more than 20 weeks, Klehor test for feto-maternal hemorrhage. 2 weekly 125 international unit per ml NTD is required depending upon the amount of feto-maternal hemorrhage. For 1 ml of feto-maternal hemorrhage, 125 international units of NTD is needed to neutralize that feto-maternal hemorrhage. And again, this is very important exam tested area. If bleeding is more than 2.5 ml, bleed should be reassessed using flow cytometry when NTD is not required. So there are certain situations when NTD is not needed. So these are women who are choosing to be sterilized following delivery, that they are not planning for any further pregnancies, where the father is known to be Rh negative and the woman is sure that she will not have another child. So these are basically the indications when NTD is not needed. Postnatally, 1250 international units should be given. The best is to give within 72 hours. It can reduce to 625 international units if testing is done routinely. Plus, Klehor test can also be done for fetal-maternal hemorrhage. And then, depending upon the fetal-maternal hemorrhage, we can give NTD. If fetal-maternal hemorrhage is more than 24, then IV administration is advisable. So, what are the sensitizing events? Basically, termination of pregnancy, medical or surgical, evacuation of the uterus, which is medical or surgical, ectopic pregnancy, threatened or complete miscarriage after 12 weeks, antepartum hemorrhage, invasive prenatal procedures, amniocentesis, chorionic villus sampling, fetal blood sampling, external version of the fetus, external cephalic version of the fetus, abdominal injury, and intrauterine death or stillbirth. That is basically the indication. So the quick exam tested questions that the intramuscular injections are best given into the which muscle? That is deltoid muscle. The woman should remain in the hospital for approximately how much time after administration of NTD, which is 20 minutes. And Resonative is available in 625 international units and 1250 international unit vials, and it is licensed for intramuscular injections only. Rofelic is available as 1500 international units pre-filled syringe, and it can be administered either in IV, intravenous, or intramuscular. But remember that Resonative, that is only intramuscular. All NTD immunoglobulin preparations, they carry a small risk of localized or general allergic reactions. So a localized or general allergic reactions can be there. NTD should be given as early as possible. So if the question, one option is as early as possible, the next option is 72 hours, the best is as early as possible. It is best to be given within first 72 hours. Okay, so as soon as possible following the sensitizing event, and always within 72 hours to avoid sensitization. If, however, dose is missed, then it is still advised to give NTD up to 10 days following the event, as there may be some protection which can be afforded to the patient. If a woman confirms that her partner is biological father and there is documented evidence, blood group report or donor card that he is Rh negative, then NTD may be omitted, as this is basically Rh negative. This is a condition where NTD is not needed. NTD must be given to Rh negative women without NTD antibodies as early as possible following any of the events which are listed below: termination of pregnancy, medical or surgical; evacuation of the uterus, medical or surgical; ectopic pregnancy, threatened or complete miscarriage after 12 weeks, antepartum hemorrhage; invasive prenatal procedures like amniocentesis, chorionic villus sampling, fetal blood sampling, external cephalic version of the fetus, closed abdominal injury, intrauterine death, or stillbirth. These are basically the situations that you should be giving NTD to the patient without NTD antibodies as early as possible, as these are the sensitizing events which has happened, and that is the indication of NTD administration. Before 20 weeks of gestation, 625 international units of NTD is sufficient, and after 20 weeks of gestation, at least 1000 international units NTD should be given, and blood should be taken for Klehor test or other similar test, which is flow cytometry, to estimate the size of fetal-maternal hemorrhage. So this was all about the precise and concise summary for multiple pregnancy and NTD administration. These two are very, very important exam tested areas, very high yield, frequently tested, repeatedly tested exam topics. So you should revise the guidelines. You should go through these YouTube series. And if you have not subscribed the YouTube channel of Study Medics, subscribe now and enjoy YouTube series. We at Study Medic wish you all the very best for your upcoming exams. Have a great day.